James Averis here for Fight News Australia. I'm with UFC welterweight Luke Jumeau. Luke recently fought at UFC 221 in Perth on the very first fight of the morning. Luke, it's been a couple of weeks since the win. You've turned 30. How's it all been, brother?
Yeah, good, bro. Really good. Other than the injury, of course, but yeah, everything's perfect, man.
Yeah, so I was cage side for that fight, and it was a bit of a war. I was hoping to get to talk to you in the back afterwards, but you did get transported. What
Yeah,
was the injury?
I broke my second metacarpal, so there's the
Oh, wow.
in the cast at the moment. But yeah, it was a pretty clean snap. It was
When about?
probably the last punch I threw, I think.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, bro, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
As I dropped him with that sort of leg kick, and then on his way down, I kind of glanced the back of his head,
Yeah.
or the top sort of, top sector. So it was nice and hard. And then I think just looking over the footage and that, we think that's probably when it was broken.
So obviously that first round, you appeared to be in a lot of trouble. You were covering up, trying to get away from his shots. It looked like the referee was seriously looking at the fight. How hurt were you in that first round?
No, I don't think I was really hurt. It was just more of a, he turned it on. I ended up in a bit of a bad spot, and yeah, he was definitely a dangerous opponent, and
Yep.
I dropped him quite early, like half dropped him quite early in that round, and I sort of shut off a little bit and sort of more chased rather than was being technical, and then obviously I got caught. And then I overreached again, and that's what ended up how I sort of fell to the ground. And he swarmed a little bit, but straight after I stood up and that, I was waving him on, and I think I sort of ended the round okay,
Yeah.
and then went back to fighting sharp in the second round.
Yeah, you really showed a lot of heart and determination to get through that first round. It was very impressive. Did you notice him start to tire, or did you think that maybe he thought, "Wow, he's still here coming at me"?
Yeah, definitely. I noticed the fade in him big time. I was going to the body quite early too with my lead leg kicks and stuff. I started kicking the body on the liver side, and then in the second round went to the body with the hands as well, and I started noticing him fading. Even with the leg kicks, I could see that he was switching his stance quite a bit, trying to hide it too, like not switching to attack, but switching for defense.
And obviously in Perth, the card started very early, and you were the very first fight. It was at 7:30 a.m., which was when you walked to the octagon. How was that? Did you have to start training earlier than normal, and just having a fight at that time of the morning, was
Yeah,
that a bit different?
definitely. We learned the hard way in Japan. Japan was a similar setup. I fought, I think, about 6:30 in Japan.
Oh,
Local
wow.
time. Yeah, so we learned the hard way. That was a real big shock to the system, and sort of threw me around a lot. But this time we stayed in New Zealand time from the minute we arrived, probably 5 or 6 days before the event. So we were getting up local Perth time at about 3 in the morning, and having breakfast, and then I was having a workout every morning at 7:30, which is the time I was fighting. So we were closing the curtains and turning the lights off at about 5:30 in the afternoon. So it was it really worked well. It's just staying in New Zealand time, my normal sort of time zone. Come fight time, I had about 4 or 5 hours from the time I woke up to the time I fought. So it really worked well.
Yeah, so in the lead up to this fight, I know you're from Hamilton and you often go to Auckland for training, and you
Yep.
mentioned in the post-fight interview that you brought on Lolo for this fight. He's obviously a famed kickboxing coach back home in New Zealand, trained guys like Ray Sefo and Mark Hunt. When did you bring him on?
At the start of the camp, it was my intention to bring him on for the Japan, but I broke my index finger on my left hand quite early, and so I was pretty much unable to spar, unable to hit pads and all that sort of jazz. So I didn't end up going up to Auckland or bother with anything like that because I was just more or less staying fit.
Yeah.
And so the minute we got the call for this fight, I just started camp with him, and we done this whole camp together.
So did you come down to Hamilton, or did you go to Auckland?
Now he runs like a weekend camp for fighters who also work, and
Right.
so I'll just go up Friday night and stay in Auckland and come home Sunday afternoon, sort of thing, you know.
And obviously having his expertise in your corner and during the fight camp, how important was he for you, and what did he teach you?
He's amazing, bro. He's really, really amazing. He sees things that most people don't see, and he sees it just subconsciously, you know, and picks up on little things. He helped me a lot this fight camp. I think it was my first striker in quite a while, like a really actually a striker who's not going to look to take me down. I'm also a striker. That's the way I fight, you know, and it was really like motivating and stuff to focus on my strengths this whole camp and get to put time and effort and love into it, you know, when most of the time I'm focusing on wrestling and wrestling defense sort of thing.
So do you think you'll be able to train a lot more with him moving forward, hopefully?
Oh, 100%, bro. Yeah, he's part of the family now, part of the team, and he's got the big plans for the future as well. He messages me every day and what we need to work on. Even he's putting plans together for the minute my hand's better, what we're gonna be doing, and it's awesome, bro. Like, come from not really having a coach to now having a coach, bro. You know.
So with the hand in the way that it is, what do you do? Obviously, you can't use it for punching, but are you keeping on top of your cardio? What other sort of things can you do while the hand recuperates?
Yeah, just mostly strength stuff. So I mean, at the moment, I can't really even sweat too much because of the way that it is. But you know, just small strength things and staying active like that. Not letting my body waste away, pretty much.
And going back to your last fight in Japan, you suffered your first loss in about, I think it's about 4 years, something like that. Yeah. How did you take having a loss after so much time, you know, getting wins?
It was hard, bro. It was definitely hard. But I'm a man and I dealt with it, and you know, can only go forward, can't look back. No point dwelling on it. It is what it is, sort of thing. A few things obviously went wrong, and even through the fight, you know, mentally wasn't as strong as I could have been. You know, he is a decent opponent, but I had more than enough tools to put him away, and it was just the way that the camp went, my broken finger, and you know, not to be making excuses or anything, but it definitely wasn't. It was just too many things added up against me, sort of thing, you know.
And anything in particular from that fight that you took out of it that helped you prepare for the next one?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you learn from everything. I've always even learned from wins and that, but I learned a lot. And also my team, we sort of learned a lot in sort of corner wise and you know, wake up calls sort of thing mid rounds or whenever needed. And so we've definitely grown from it.
And I also want to talk about your first fight in the UFC last year. I was there in Auckland and the crowd went crazy when you came out. Obviously, you've been fighting on the Australian scene, the New Zealand scene, and in Asia for years. But to finally get that UFC call up and to do it in front of the home fans, how awesome was that for you, man?
Bro, it truly was a dream come true. Like, there could be no better way to have my UFC debut than at home, with friends, family, fans, people who have watched my whole journey, sort of thing. You know, like I couldn't think of any other way. Like the emotions that I felt, the messages afterwards, the thousands of people that shared the emotions with me. You know, like when I was achieving, they were achieving. You know, it was pretty special moment, bro.
And now you're 3 fights into your UFC career. When you you know in the lead up, build up, fight week, you're getting interviews and just walking into the UFC octagon. Do you have to pinch yourself sometimes that it has become a reality, something that you chased for so long?
Yeah, man, 100%. It still doesn't like really sink in. I mean, we went straight to the hospital after I did did my hand in that, and then we actually made it back to the arena for the last two fights, and we were sitting there in the green room with all the other fighters and watching the main event. And one of my teammates said to me, "Bro, fuck, you were just in that cage." You know what I mean? We're sitting there watching the UFC,
Yeah.
and it's like that blood, that stuff. You were just there, and it's like, man, just little moments like that. Is when you're like, when it kind of sinks in, but still, it's still not really a reality, man.
Having Bruce Buffer call your name must spin you out a little bit, eh?
Bro. Yeah, it's out there, bro. But it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And obviously, you're a homegrown New Zealand fighter. I think Dan Hooker was really the first one to
Yep.
train out of New Zealand and make the UFC. Then you got there. Shane Young has had a fight. Now Israel Adesany's in there. New Zealand's really starting to make some waves. What do you think of the whole New Zealand MMA scene at the moment? And what do you think makes Kiwi fighters different from those in other countries?
Bro, to be honest, I don't really know what makes us different. We just seem to have that sort of nature and that about us, competitive. It's just really that's what makes us successful, is our competitive nature. Whatever we seek to do, it seems to be that New Zealanders are at the top of the heap, whether it be rowing or whatever sports New Zealanders sort of enter in. I think it's just that New Zealand culture, from kids. It's just competitive nature, and whatever we choose to do, we succeed.
Now, so obviously you're going to be on the shelf for a little bit with the hand. What do you think is next for you? Is there any opponent in mind? I know you would probably love to avenge that loss you had to Jake Matthews, a bit of Aussie versus Kiwi fight there. I think that would be awesome for the fans. What are your thoughts on that potential matchup, or what would you like?
Oh, bro, I just want to get back in there as quick as my hand will let me and my body will let me, and keep that sort of momentum going. If that fight comes up with Jake Matthews, I'll happily sign the paper. I want to fight. I want to fight people on winning records, and whatever's going to help catapult me up the ranks as soon as possible. Even someone like Cowboy or Cerrone or something. He's had a couple of losses, just had a win.
Yeah.
You know, Something like that would be amazing for like someone like myself. Get a win over a big name, and then start pushing from there.
So you really want to start getting some big names, potentially get your name out there. These guys
Yeah, 100%,
watching.
man. I mean, like, none of my fights have been easy opponents. They're no different to anyone in the top 10, top 15. So if I was to have a well-ranked, named opponent, that just only goes to show how much New Zealanders and a Kiwi like myself can do, and really put myself in the open.
And I read somewhere that you work full time as a panel beater. Is that still the case?
Yeah, bro, 100%. I mean, the only thing that would have changed that at the moment, I think, would be the 50K bonus.
Yeah.
That would sort of maybe set me up for a year or something. I mean, I got two kids and partner in that. So money. I have to feed the kids, man. I have to feed the family. Money doesn't sit. It just
Yeah.
goes wastes away.
100%. And so how many hours a day would you be working in your time job? Do you just 8 hours a day and training morning and night? How do you shuffle all that?
8 hours a day. 8 hours a day. 40
Yeah.
hours a week. So, and then training's just on top of that. Most nights, and obviously when I'm in camp, weekends as well.
Now, last question from me. I know you probably have to get back to work or something. It is midday back in New Zealand, so I won't take too much of your time. But one of your main training partners is the XFC welterweight champion, Matt Frevola.
Yeah.
And he is taking on Kit Campbell for the Hicks welterweight title in Melbourne next month. I just want to get your thoughts on that matchup and how good is Matt and how good he is for you as a training partner.
Yeah, man, Matt's awesome. He's my pretty much my main sparring partner and all that sort of jazz. I've known Matt since he was a kid, and we've trained together ever since then, and grown together and all that sort of stuff. I think he'll take out Kit pretty easily. It's a really good matchup, good stage for him. Kit's on a good win streak, Matt's on a win streak. It's a sort of you know, you got to put them together at some stage of the game, and it's a perfect sort of matchup for Matt. I think he'll do really well, and then he should be getting a call up also pretty soon. Be another New Zealander on the big stage.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate your time today. We'll leave it sweet and short. Good luck for your next fight. Hopefully that hand heals up, and all the best for the future, bro.
Awesome, bro. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.